And good morning. Welcome to Sunday Coffee.
And good morning.
And it sounds like my test went
Welcome.
great. Well, let's see. I mean, it almost went great. There we go. Perfect. So it's been a little bit more than a minute since I've had a little bit of Sunday coffee. And hopefully, we'll make this a routine and have some fun. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about leading from the back. I've heard this term quite a bit, and I think there is, a fair amount of people that don't quite understand what it means, how to use it, what it's not, and some even have given people credit for it when it's likely not the right ones to have given credit for. So, I think first I'm just going to start this off with what leading from the back is not. So it shouldn't be about CYA, cover your ass. Shouldn't be about that. A lot of leaders that say, well, I'm just practicing. I say leaders in this particular case, I think slightly loosely in this manner because they will say, well, I'm leading from the back. I'm letting these people do what they need to do. That CYA aspect. Well, I'm not really there. I'm leading from the back. I'm letting them get out there. And I got to tell you, you can delegate authority. You can't delegate your responsibility. And that is a huge part of leading from the back. You're delegating some responsibility. You're trying to inflect a tremendous amount of innovation quickly, or at least somewhat quickly, maybe quickly for your organization. And many times it's just a matter of who you are as to how quickly that particular innovation can occur. Now, that's the part where at leading from the back in that CYA aspect, you have to be involved. You can't just sit back and go, well, I'm leading from the back, they're taking care of it. That's not what this is about. And because when you do that, you're actually then disconnected from the group. You should never be disconnected from people you are charged with leading. That's never a good thing. Um, it looks like I had a live stream comment from the little test going up there. But I'm gonna get back to that. You gotta be connected. You have to constantly stay connected. And if you're disconnected from your team, you're not leading from the back. You're just not leading. You're just sitting back. You're on the sideline. You're a spectator. You're not involved. You don't get to be an ostrich. The ostrich sticks there in the sand, and that's it. That's all you're being a spectator. You're letting others take full accountability. And remember, as a leader, that's something you can't delegate. You can't delegate your responsibility and accountability. And then others say, well, I'm really hands off. I don't think you should ever be hands off. You can let people have room to try things, succeed, but this is not a passive activity. Don't be passive. Be active in leading from the back. And then another thing I really believe where people take this incorrect way is that they'll say, well, leading from the back, it's supposed to provide all this innovation. So then I don't need strategic planning. That's not true either. You absolutely still have to have a vision. And I say the strategic planning session that you should have with your teams is about vision. The path can certainly, and even some of the goals might change, and that's perfectly acceptable because until you start moving, you're not going to get new data. Staying still means no new data. We want data. We always want data. Data helps us to change the aperture of the earth. We know now that we've moved, we've got some things to take in. So, you that plan has to occur. Your team has to implement it and give them the freedom on defining how they're going to implement it. They might even change some of the things, but when we all kind of, I won't say consensus, not everyone is going to buy in to your vision. That's okay. They don't have to. Now, you want some people that are willing to stand up. Maybe stand up's not the right word. Maybe the word is healthy conflict, constructive conflict. Right? You need that. I don't want just complete consensus. I don't want yes people in the organization. I want people that are more than happy to tell you their belief as to why something's not going to work. Now, you're in a position of leadership, and I'm not necessarily saying the hierarchy, but you've been charged with leading a project, you've been charged with leading an organization. It means it falls on you. You certainly want as many people's counsel as you can possibly get because their job is to remove your blind spots. Are they saying something that you didn't think of? And just because you didn't think of it doesn't mean you stop and halt and then do it, not do that. Perhaps it's, well, you didn't think about it. Is it going to change your goal? Is it going to change your path? And if the answer to that is no, then so be it. So that's a little bit about what leading from the back is not. And I think that's extremely important to really understand that. And we're going to go right back into it. It's not CYA. It is not being disconnected from your team. You don't get to be a participant or like be an ostrich and stick your head in the sand. It's not passive and it does not take the place of strategic planning. So then, it begs the question, what is leading from the back? And I think it's important because some of these terms that have come, this term has come up, a lot of them have been given credit to President Obama and that it was his administration because he was leading from the back when it came to foreign policy. And it wasn't President Obama. And then there's another set of people that say, well, it was Nelson Mandela. Because Nelson Mandela wrote that leadership is like being the shepherd of the flock. And you're in the back. And if one gets out of line, you kind of go over and take your whatever that thing's called to get the sheep or cow or whatever back in the right path. You're protecting them from the predators. You're making sure they're being fed and taken care of, but you're leading from the back. How does your flock know where to go? Well, there's a goal in mind, and maybe you have some help, but he didn't coin the phrase leading from the back either. And as far as my research has been able to uncover, I believe it was Linda Hill from Harvard University. And she's written some things on this. And I think it's the right way of doing it. Okay, so even I'm going to digress just a slight moment here, or at least a slight piece of this, because um, I said this is what leading from the back is. But I got to say that leading from the back is never ever used in moments of crisis. Moments of crisis, hierarchy actually matters. So you got to get, there's no room for debate at that point. It's not time to debate anything when there's a crisis going on. So think from a technology perspective, disaster recovery, business continuity. We're in an event, we're in a crisis event, and now you follow the prescribed policies and procedures. There's no room at that point for anything further than that. So, leading from the back, it must be deliberate. You must give your team, your people, your organization the opportunity to fail safely. If you take things out of their hands and just like do it yourself, and this is another big thing as to why it's difficult to do is that many people will simply say, it's easier if I just do it myself, doing everyone a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing your team a disservice. It also must be very purposeful. You've heard of purpose driven organizations. When your team believes in the purpose of the project, the goal, whatever it might be at that particular moment, when that happens, magic happens. At least I feel that's when the magic happens because your team's involved. They're engaged. They're being, which is another part, collaborative. You need collaboration. No one can do anything in a vacuum. Trying to do something in a vacuum, I believe, is a recipe for disaster. I don't know about you all. I don't like anything being a disaster, especially my coffee on Sunday morning. But be collaborative. I think that's an extremely important thing is to be collaborative. Engage your team, engage your peers, go up and down the chain. So I can't say that I've always, or even, not even just always. I've made a lot of mistakes when trying to do this, and I've been, I would say, criticized for being too hands off. I am more hands off with my senior level people because I have entrusted them to do senior level things. They shouldn't need me as much. I try to spend more time with junior level people because I feel like they need to hear directly from me what my expectations are. This way, there's no confusion. And it's also a way for me to help professionally develop them, that they get direct access to me. And so that's difficult. But I've still made a bunch of mistakes, even with my senior level people. Perhaps I should have checked in with them more often. Now, I tend to, with my senior level people, have one on ones weekly. Junior level people, sometimes weekly, sometimes every other week, sometimes once a month. It just depends on how big the organization is that I'm in charge with leading at the moment. But maybe with some of my senior level people, I should have checked in even more than just once a week on a one on one. Maybe it should have been more things of like stand-ups or just pinging them through, your whatever chat application, we have in your organization, Microsoft Teams, Google Chat, Slack, love Slack. Big shout out to Slack. I'm hoping to implement that. I just happen to it's so much easier to use. I feel like they've really done it the right way. But um I should have probably checked in with them more. That's some of the failures, and I try to, implement that. It's a fine line because I don't want the senior level people in the organization to feel like I'm micromanaging them. They have to have the freedom to enact their portion of the vision that we've agreed to. Like, they own a piece of that, and if I talk to them too much about it, I feel like I might be micromanaging them a little bit, and I don't wanna do that either. I think that's a bad thing. So it's a balancing act, and I think the only way of doing that is getting back to that, if we're leading from behind, how do we stay collaborative? Collaborative is a two-way communication. It can't just be me to you or you to me. It's gotta be give and take. And so my part is if I need them to tell me if I'm talking to them too much about it. Like, if they've got it, Perfect. Then you got it. I trust you. I believe you. You got it. Done. We'll move on to the next piece. And there's nothing wrong with that. The next part, I believe, where I've made some mistakes is I have, and this is for the ninja because he loves this word, presuppose. I've presupposed an outcome for my junior staff. I've already made my conclusion. This is what's going to happen. And I try to sometimes step in and prevent that. They need to fail. But remember, as a leader, we want them to fail softly. We don't want their, in this case, we don't want their spirit crushed. We don't want them to lose tremendous amount of confidence. We just want a little, maybe 1 degree burn, little minor sunburn. Nothing they're going to have to go to the hospital over. We don't want that. No, nothing with the hospital. Let's try to keep that from happening. But I've certainly done that, where I've presupposed outcomes for my junior staff. I haven't given them enough opportunities to fail. I would say even some cases I may not have pushed them hard enough to fail. I really believe you need to understand what your breaking point is. I just go back to, you're lifting weights. How do you ever bench 300 pounds if you didn't bench 200? You had to fail, right? You failed. How many times did you try benching 300 pounds? Or for some of you, 100 pounds, 50 pounds, doesn't matter. And you failed. But the next time, you might get it. Well, you got to know where that breaking point is. And once you know where your breaking point is, then you absolutely know you can go to that point again. So, it's okay. The weight's gonna fall. Now, hopefully someone there is spotting you, and that's the job of the leaders to be a spotter. And then, the last part where I would say that I've truly not done a very good job with leading from the back, and we'll go back to the shepherd aspect. I didn't call the herd fast enough. It's okay to be to be someone that, like, okay, I don't agree with this vision, but once it's been set, this is the vision. If you are actively working against that vision from happening, I've probably given people too many chances to get back in line. Um, that and I just said, so I'm kinda pausing there. You know, I've always told my managers, if there's one thing I hope none of us are good at, and that's firing someone. Because no matter what happened, as a leader, I feel like that's my failure. I failed, I couldn't reach them, um, but that's okay. At a certain point in time, if I'm spending too much time trying to get someone back on track into the vision that I'm moving forward with, and they are constantly working against that, I would advise all of you, don't be like baseball. It's not 3 strikes and you're out. You get a chance to fail, chance to redeem. That's it. You don't do it, I would advise it's time to invite that person to go work somewhere else because they also deserve to work with someone where they believe in the vision that's being moved forward. And sometimes that's just it's not there. And that's okay. We have to understand that it's okay. Now, how do I make this work? And I think that's really the trick. And it's not easy. You set a vision. It's now the vision's not set in stone. It's not a direction. It's a vision. I want to go to California. There's many ways for me to go to California. I could walk, definitely not running, but I might run portions of time. I could take a car, an Uber or Lyft. I could, or maybe a limousine. I have someone drive me. I could take a bus, I could take a train, plane. Be a little difficult where I'm at in the middle of the country to take a boat, but if I was on one coast, I could partially take a boat there. That's not for me to, I don't want to determine that how I'm going to get there. As a leader, I truly believe you own the what, even if the what comes from the people below you. I still have to own it. It was their idea, and you give them full credit for their idea. That part is shouldn't even shouldn't even be up for debate. But I certainly can't tell you how many times that I have seen leaders take the ideas of their junior staff and pawn them off on their own. That will only get you only able to do that so many times before your, team figures that out, and then they're not gonna be a part of your team. So don't ever do that. Don't take credit for others. The next part, you know how they say in real estate, it's location, location, I think in leadership, it's listen, 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 and not just with your leaders. Look at body language. Look at, how they're communicating in text, how they're communicating emails, um, certainly, body language. Pay attention to that. All that matters. It also matters how quickly they respond, but it's extremely important to listen, listen, listen. And as I've mentioned, and what mistakes I've made, I kinda correct. Check in often. Check in. What's going on? What did you accomplish today? What are you trying to accomplish today? What is it that you believe? No, I shouldn't say just today. As a leader, I have gotten less and less involved with what I'm accomplishing today. I look at things now on a quarterly and weekly basis. This is what I want to accomplish in the quarter. And then I check in with myself with the things that I have accomplished that week. Am I still on target for that quarter? Now, the more junior you are in an organization, you do need those daily things. This is what I need to get done today. Maybe you're doing things week and day, or I'm quarter and week. Maybe yours is your quarter is or my quarter is your week. And that's fine. And even more junior, you might go day by day, but it's did you accomplish what you believed you need to accomplish? And you check in. Check in with yourself, check in with your teammates, check in with your peers, and do it often. I probably talk to my peers in the organization just as much as what I talk to my direct reports because it's important, I think, to go, horizontal, vertical. Ask what and how questions. Try to avoid the why question. Those why questions put people on the defensive. So try to avoid those as often as you can. And we've talked about this on the show before. When you ask that why question, puts you on the defensive because we were taught at a very early age, growing up, did something and one of our parents, "Why'd you do that?" So whenever we hear why, we immediately get defensive and we feel like we have to defend that. And you might be saying, "Well, Dan, how do we change that why question to a what or how question?" Simple. At least I feel it's simple. What steps did you take that led to this outcome? How did you come up with this plan? Who else was involved in the plan? Things like that. That's how I would do it. And look, it's difficult. So, that's my take on leading from the back, what it is, what it's not, mistakes I've made, the ways in which I keep it moving forward. And I've got some other set goals for this year that I'm trying to do. Uh, I took some time off with the show. I was always thinking about it, and it was purposeful. I needed to regroup, get my vision for what I want to accomplish. Who am I in this crazy world? And I have that purpose back. I'm going to be trying to do things that are much more, purposeful with this. I want to have more local people on, be more part of the community that I'm in, and let's see where it goes from there. I might bring in some remote guests on occasion, but it's not going to be as often. I don't like the way I've got the technology kind of set up for that, at least not just yet. So until then, I'm going to be doing things a little bit more solo based, more monologue. See if I can get this to a point to where I can take my transcripts and maybe get a book out of it. Book for me. A lot of things have happened since we've last chatted. Um, the distillery is up and running. It's going quite well. My father passed away. We've grown the distillery, I think, in a very intentful way, which is great. Um, there's probably a lot of other things that have gone on since then, but that's what I can think of for now. But until next time, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you have topics you'd like me to cover, research, write about, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope you have an amazing Sunday. Take care.